All right. So, welcome to the second event of the 2020 annual meeting. This is our instructors roundtable. Mostly, it's for instructors to ask questions of one another. Looks like we're going to open it up to the larger audience, so I'm not going to be as militant as I was with audio and video in the previous session, since one, I recognize most of the names that are in the channel, and two, it should be a little more freeform because I think we're probably going to want your guys' opinions on certain things as we talk through challenges, problems, issues, etc., associated with either instruction in general or the particular programs that we have in specific. So I'll ask a serious question. Does anybody have a specific agenda that they'd like to start with? Or shall I turn it over to David and Kat to help sort of moderate this peanut gallery? Because
I've got a few things, Ed.
Yeah, I got nothing. I have no agenda going into this. So.
You know what? I think it's awesome that the director of our education programs, Mr. Eric Myers, has decided to step up and have a few things to say.
Why, thank you, Ed. I appreciate it. Although I've been trying my best.
Tilt your camera down because all we can see is your forehead. No?
That's actually intentional. All right, is that better?
Yes,
yeah.
It is.
Okay.
Welcome to the party.
All right, guys. So I think there's a few things that I'd like to put on the agenda for this discussion. First, I want to kind of run through and figure out what's been going well for folks that have been certified now for a while with the existing programs. I'll also mention for anybody that's not an instructor that is on the call that is looking to potentially become an instructor, because as part of my duties as the instructor person, I also have the duties of the membership director. And so I ran the annual survey this year, and we got about 125 people who said that they're not currently certified as an instructor in any way, shape, or form, but they would like to pursue that path with us. So I think that this is going to be a good opportunity. I would assume that some of the folks that are on this call fall into that category. So I'd like to talk a little bit about folks who have gone through the process recently, what they think about the process, the certification process, what they think we might be able to improve in that process to make it go more smoothly and quickly. I'd also then like to discuss a little bit about next steps, i.e., what are we going to be adding next? And I'll say that we already have one part of that nailed down, even though Mr. Pixel XL2 over there has jumped off the screen. A large part of that is going to be the IDS coursework for instructors, which is the next more advanced side of the house. Oh, there he is, Mr. Pixel 2. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Just taking some note material. You know, this is starting to sound a little bit serious. So,
well, we got
the agenda items. So. I put the agenda items in the certified instructor channel. I'll keep typing there.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you, Kyle. So yeah, I think we want to talk a little bit about. I want to have Alessandro talk a little bit about the vision for getting folks certified through IDS. Kind of what the expectation is with that. It's a lengthy certification class, so this is going to require folks that are really wanting to step up and go through it. And then I also want to talk about direction for additional classes. We got some basic coursework done with regards to carbine class, but it really dropped. I'd like to figure out where we take that next because rifles are big. If we take a look at our membership survey, 77% of the people that are members that responded use semi-automatic rifles in one form or another. So I think it's going to be an important class for us to add in the short term, and kind of one of the things that I'd like to see added in. So I'd like to get some feedback from folks on the call as to what they think. Is that the right next step for us to add an intro class for, or do we look at something else? The other thing, and I don't know if Scott is on the call or not, but we actually have him working on doing a series of videos called Make It Safe. And the entire point behind that series of videos is to provide that as a resource to educators or parent organizations or anyone who wants to know if they come across a common firearm that's just laying there, or their child managed to get their hands on it and they don't have any experience with guns. What do they do? How do they make it safe? How do they make sure that nobody's going to hurt themselves or someone else with it? We already have most of the work of that done. So that's a pretty easy one that anybody is already certified in the basic, intro to range safety class. We're going to add that as a freebie for you. So you can look at the deck. It's super simple. It's not designed for people who are firearms enthusiasts or want to become that way. It's designed for you to be able to go in and show some folks who are concerned about coming across a gun in their environment. And let me see, next things, I think challenges. So Kyle, the next thing is challenges that you've run into with teaching classes. Obviously this year has been absurd. We've had, with the pandemic, we're not really doing a lot of in-person classes at this point. But I know just from the responses, and David, maybe you can chime in if you've been keeping track of the numbers. I think we're just over 500 requests just in the last 4 months for training. So there are a lot of new people that are looking for training from us across the country. So,
yeah, I haven't run the numbers, but 500 seems reasonable.
Yeah, I did a really brief thing filtering my email based on the requests, and I counted ish 500 in the last 3 or 4 months, I think. So it's a lot. We're seeing a lot of interest in what we can do to help. So that being said, Kyle, can you read off what our first priority was, and we'll start with that.
Sure, and I'll post everything, an updated one here as well, and in the chat. Number 1 is what's been going well for those who have been certified in teaching for a while.
And let me jump in. HK, I made a mistake. HK is not yet certified. He owes us teach back videos, but he's right in the middle of the process. So he might be a good person to hear from.
You're fired. Anyway, can I add two things to your agenda, Eric, just for grins?
You can.
One, I think we need an official remote learning position because I think I can get that done somewhere. I can do something with that in Massachusetts, and we probably can do it at least for the lecture components of our various classes. So we need to make sure that we have some formal certification for that, and we can talk about what that looks like as part of this. And 2, the state certifications for our classes.
Oh, great ads. Yeah,
are a huge miss here.
The state thing is going to be really huge with the collapse of the NRA right now. That is a big deal, and they're going to be more open. So input on that, please.
And I have one thing that I'm going to talk about when we get to what's been going well, what's not been. And then both Laura and I had the same note about at one point in time last year after the meeting, we were supposed to have developed a range officer program, and that fell to the wayside. So I think that
Did John jump on this one?
That can be your number 4. We can talk about that when we get to number 4.
And can I add one more? In the pandemic, I would really like to hear how people have been dealing with challenges at their local ranges.
Oh, yeah.
I have had a terrible, I went to everybody who has been to it in the club's favorite range, which is called SLOSA out here in California. Even at that range where the range was trying incredibly hard, it was awful. At least in the morning. By the afternoon, it had kind of cleared out, and one of the RSOs who knows us was like, I'll get you your own. Literally, there were 4 of us there from the club, and he was willing to no charge us a private bay because it was so bad. And that's the best possible circumstance you can get. It has been so hard. I'd love to hear people's inputs on what are you doing with your local ranges with the no masks, overcrowded, all the newbies, all the RSOs are overwhelmed, the ranges are overwhelmed, and they're not safe.
So I think we got now 11 things.
Yeah, I think we just need to be aware here that we are on a limited time frame, and we're also not going to be able to solve world peace. So we got to pick our issues here. So I agree that that's something that we got to try to figure out, but I don't know that we can solve that today, Lara. It's
Yeah, and that may be something that we could keep going in the chat. That's just something that I'm interested in. I really want input from you guys because you're the instructors in this club.
Well, why don't we talk about that? That seems like it's really embedded for one, what's been going well, and we can talk about it in context of today as well as, before this all happened. So ranges are a problem. I mean, ranges are a problem in general, at least here. They're not only
the ranges here are super busy, and it's 50-50 right now whether they're abiding by masking and all that. Part of the advantage I think my state has is we do have a mask mandate for all businesses for anywhere. Like if you walk out of your house, you're required to wear a mask by state mandate right now. It's been that way the whole time. So I think in my state around Chicago, people are way more compliant about wearing masks in general anyway, because at this point we really are used to it. I don't know if it's different downstate, but for me around Chicagoland, it's been pretty good. Once you start getting into the further out ranges, it changes. A couple of the closer ranges that I've been able to go to, what I've been running into is the public portion of the ranges where people are just standing in a lane and shooting. They're wearing masks. They're being required to wear masks. They're being policed on wearing the masks, and so it's fine. Although crowded, but that's what the masks are for. And I think there's some argument too with these are all indoor ranges, so they do have HEPA filtering systems that are actually blowing everything downrange. So there is a safety factor there with at least, it's hard to breathe on each other because your breath is really going that way. But when it gets on the end of advanced people and us doing our practice groups where we're in our own bays, everything's out the window. So the last couple times I've only gone a couple where I've gone to USPSA practice stuff and it's wear a mask if you want, and I've been the only one. So when it got into that level of you can do what you want in your private bay, then all bets are off. My sort of home range where I was actually doing twice a month, we started a ladies' night every other. It was every Tuesday, but I was able to go only every other. But I started that group with one of the employees there, and I was holster training ladies. I was training brand new ladies who'd never held a gun before, all kinds of different levels, and it was great. But that only started, December, January, so it was in its infancy still when COVID hit. Everything did go away for a while, but a couple months after, March, April, probably May, they started it back up again, and I was just like, so how's the mask situation up there? Because it's closer to Wisconsin, and all bets are off in Wisconsin. And this range is, even though they've been really friendly with me, they know who I am, they know what I do, they're super cool with me. They do have people of color on staff, and are, the whole staff is cool. The owner is a Trumper, and he's got Trump crap all over the lobby. It's gotten better since I keep complaining, but he's not mandating that anybody in his
So I don't
facility
want to.
wear masks.
To be mindful of the Eric's agenda and point around time. I don't think we're going to be able to solve this. There's going to be a lot of frustration venting. I think ranges are a problem. I think perhaps from an instructor point of view, what we do is, if it's not safe, we don't take students there. And period. Stop it. End of statement. Right? If they're being idiots,
Right.
we don't do it.
Yeah. So the teaching that I've been doing has been the in-home portion in people's homes or mine, and that's been it.
And how has that gone? How has the in-home portion gone, and how have they been as far as receptiveness?
It's been good. I mean, when I have my one-on-one, it's only one other person or two people, and we're wearing masks, and it's awkward, but they enjoy the home portion. They feel that they've learned a lot. I kind of go through, as far as like drills, it's tough because we're not doing any live fire. So I feel like that's where it really all comes together, as much as I can teach them in their dining room. You have to get the boom in there to really understand like the gun cycling and everything. But I do the best I can. I have them hold it. I actually cycle the gun for them so that they're experiencing. I use snap caps. So I have them pulling the trigger, feeling some pushback, and at least getting some kind of feedback with how the gun might feel when they're live on the range.
So I might have a suggestion for folks, or I've got a couple of suggestions for folks that have been doing some classes during this, and I don't think that everybody is, but I know that there are certainly some folks.
I've done two. I can talk about my experience when we get to it.
Well, the two suggestions I would have is, number one, if you don't already have one of the CERT pistols, I would recommend getting that as a good starting point. The other, or not the CERT pistols, whatever it is that we sell in our
CERT.
the CERT ones. Okay.
CERT, yeah.
The second thing you may want to try is just getting like a pellet gun that has the reciprocating slide. It can give you some feeling of how that action cycling works and give the students a little bit more feedback. Obviously, without pellets, just run it without it. And it'll give them at least a little bit of a feel for what it's like, be similar to shooting a .22. So
as a build onto that, I mean, that's I've done two of them. One of them was an in-person. Every time I teach, I always have a reciprocating prop in the classroom. I can't see what I'm doing because my hands are down here.
I think
Is anyone else having Ed?
Yeah, we're losing you, Ed.
That was a great expression, though.
It's frozen that way. Quick, somebody.
Yep, I think we froze. Yes, did somebody screen capture that?
Yeah.
Oh, damn it.
Oh, there he's back.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Yeah, the
I'll
boys
put it
are
in the-
streaming
I'll-
too much video
I'll type
upstairs.
it.
I think he's going to type it.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening.
Neither does his ISP.
Well, he was just mentioning that he does have always a reciprocating firearm simulation of some kind that's in the classroom with him. I'm assuming once we see his message come through that it's going to be something along the lines of a pellet gun, like what I was recommending. So other folks that have done classes, not to keep going on this for too long because I don't want to run this for forever, but
There we go. Now you're allowed to go.
what was that? I think we're going to have to start muting people here. So other folks that have done classes that are on, can you chat about it a little bit? Anybody else want to speak up?
Yeah, this is Mike. I've done a couple of classes. I actually have a class coming up this next weekend, bumped from this weekend. And there's a lot of enthusiasm out there. One of the challenges I find is kind of range-based, is finding a friendly range to do it and because not all of them are friendly with you giving instruction on their space.
Right. Because a lot of them do classes too.
Right, and they have preferred people, and whatever. So we've just been getting around that by telling my students, we're here as friends, and we're having a fun day shooting, because the range might have feelings about me giving you instruction, but that's kind of awkward, because I don't want being lying or anything like that. But that's really the only challenge I've had. My range is private, so we really don't have any masking issues there. Easy to get, our own outside bay.
So what about feedback from your students after the classes? What are their thoughts on the content? Are they finding it useful? Does it make them want more? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I get positive feedback. I always refer them to you, Eric, to encourage them to, give their thoughts, constructive or otherwise, about how it went. They seem satisfied. They seem, excited about it. I give them things to go home and try, and leaving myself as a resource if they ever have any questions or whatever. Continuing, they're more than welcome to ask me.
Okay. Well, let me ask HK. So you're going through the process right now of being an instructor, HK. You can take yourself off of mute. So how has the process gone? How do you feel about going through it in general? And what process improvements do you think we could put in place for other folks who are looking to become instructors?
Right. I think, let's see, with the issues that we're having collectively with range access these days, I think just getting the range qualification done, I think, could be a challenge. Fortunately for me, I have access to a place that is run by a local county sheriff's department, so it's pretty well, I think, regimented and regulated in terms of mask use and so on and so forth. I was able to take care of that pretty darn well. If I did not have access to that, I think that would be kind of a an issue. As far as the process as a whole is concerned, let's see. I mean, I think the website seems to have a pretty good overview in terms of what the process is. David, I appreciate the prompt responses to the inquiries and just the steps along the way. And for me, like as I said, I've gone through the process of just the initial contact. I've gotten the range qualification completed, and now I've got the training material, which I'm starting to go through. I think you might have seen this on Discord in terms of being overjoyed for a 150-page slide deck, which again, hardly ever happens in real life. But on the other hand, I got this like, okay, I've got this. Now I can start going through this. And for me, what I found about the material so far, it mirrors really well for the 4 different instructor-led classes that I've taken so far. So I think if I'm going to be a nitpicker, there's going to be some smart ass who's going to say, but what, aren't there 4 the commandments of firearm safety? It's like, oh, we'll figure that crap out later. But I think in terms of the process thus far has been fantastic. I'm looking forward to going through a few dry runs of the material and then doing the recording, just using my laptop or phone, so I can send over to y'all and then get some feedback. I'm curious as to how that process would play out.
As far as the feedback goes?
Yeah, exactly. It's not like, like some Padawan coming in front of the Jedi Council and say, you shall teach us how to, clear a, stovepipe. Right.
Actually, you'd be surprised. We're going to start doing that as a live stream now. And I'm kidding. For anybody that's on the call that's looking at becoming an instructor, I'm kidding.
All fun and games until the snapcap flies off and cracks your laptop monitors.
Exactly. Well, from here, you're going to be able to pick out the portions that you want to teach back to us. So it's a pretty straightforward and, non-threatening process. The other thing that I will say too, and this goes for everybody that's on the call that is an instructor that wants to become an instructor, if you have old decks, please make sure you familiarize yourself with the current rules that we are using, as well as the why behind the what. If you aren't familiar with the why behind the what on why we teach that stuff, there's a great article written by Grant Cunningham that describes exactly what the methodology is on removing the rule that everybody says, oh my God, you guys are not treating guns as they're always loaded. It creates a sense of complacency, which is how people wind up hurting themselves. So there's always the method behind the madness on it. And, familiarize yourselves with it. And if you have questions or need help with the justification, or maybe you're not fully convinced yourselves, ask Alessandro, ask David, ask me. We're always here for you guys, and you can always send emails into the education@theliberalgunclub.com email address, and all of us get that stuff, and we're happy to chat about it. So thanks, HK. Anything else that you wanted to add?
No, actually, I've actually gotten some interest from my immediate friends and, believe it or not, some coworkers.
Oh, nice.
So what I'm end up doing is actually using them as sort of beta testers, because that's what we do in software, and try some of the remote material, through that way. So I think this will be a great opportunity. I mean, the timing on this is fantastic. What I've heard, I guess, at the beginning of this meeting regarding the Make It Safe class, I think that would have some significant appeal in some of my other social circles. I recently started volunteering with a local Democratic Party, so there's kind of a conversation starter in a way of, oh, by the way, kind of thing.
Yep.
So it's good ammo. I said it. All right, but thank you.
Nice. Well, thanks for chatting about that, HK. I appreciate it.
Over in the on Discord in this channel, Ed typed that we ought to add a slide to the range safety that says, you've all heard of the 4 rules. Here they are. We have 3, and this is why. And if we can have it. Yeah, if we can have the "this is why" a little bit shorter than Grant's essay, which is a great essay. I mean, he goes into the depths of why, but a shorter version of that would be really good. And like Ed pointed out, not having the 4 rules in our deck, we had while we thought we were going to be able to teach remotely, we had to drop them back in there in a hurry because apparently that was in the curriculum 10 years ago when it was submitted.
Yeah, not only that's going to raise eyebrows. So hopefully you guys can hear me now. As soon as I closed the door, I turned the room into a Faraday cage, and all the internet dropped. But not having the 4 rules in the slides are probably going to be a ridiculous technical impediment to getting the class certified in other places, and would have been a ridiculous technical impediment to recertifying the class in Massachusetts. So.
Fair enough. I think that's one of those things that we can at least talk about. I think we can figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah,
the only thing that I'm
my deck, I put them in my deck, and then the next slide was the 3.
Right. The only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about with that is that if we have brand new people, even introducing that will cause additional confusion for our basic class. But at the same time, if we have to put it in for state requirements or just to chat about it, we can.
I think critically, when I teach my students, going over it and explaining the why goes a long way. I think that really eliminates confusion. Because I've been asked that too. Well, I thought there were 4 rules. And I say, well, yeah, the other guys do 4 rules, we do 3, and here's why. And it made a lot of sense to them, and it wasn't an issue.
Right.
So, I mean, for just from a pure logistics perspective, I dropped the 4 rules slide back in. I took Jeff Cooper's picture out, and then the very next slide was the 3 rules, and I explained why they were there and why we were 1 rule less safe, as Alessandro put it.
That's right. What was that?
We're so good that we don't need that extra rule.
You start with 15 commandments, you drop a slide, a piece of, 10 commandments.
Drop the tablet.
Yeah, drop the tablet.
Nice. Okay. Well, good. So let's talk about what we're adding next. First, I want to turn it over to Alessandro to talk about the IDS instructor certification and kind of what that looks like. Kind of an overview of that process for folks that are interested in taking it beyond the 3 classes that we currently offer.
All right. So basically, the reasoning behind offering the 3-day defensive firearm coach certification is twofold. One is to actually provide a certification that is recognized across the country, right? A little background, that the certification was a evolution of the 5-day combat focus shooting instructor development, right? We realized that not too many people are willing to invest, $1,500, 5 days of their time, and a lot of studying and so on to get certified to teach firearms. So for the people that want to take their first, big step in that direction, the 3-day class allows you to teach. Once certified, allows you to teach 2 fundamental classes. One is fundamental home defense, which is something that is in high demand right now, and the other is fundamental concealed carry, which again, particularly for all the new shooters and so on, there are 2 classes that people are really looking for at the moment, right? Particularly new shooters and so on. So the progression will be from range safety to familiarization with handguns, and then if they want more, we can offer more. They don't have to go outside of the LGC in order to get a higher level of training, right? So that keeps and hopefully draws more people to get trained more, to be more responsible with the firearm, to be more responsible firearm owners, right? And from the outside looking in, the LGC is not just teaching some, light ass, safety classes. They're actually teaching a program that is being taught by IC Training. It's the same program that USCCA, United States Concealed Carry Association, is teaching, right? And so we gain and maintain a level of professionalism and a level of a standard, if you will, that nobody can easily dismiss, by these are the liberal guys, they don't know what they're talking about and all that. Right? Not to mention that also, if once you get certified for the defensive firearm coach, if you want to push forward and get to a higher level of standards of instruction, you can take the 5 days instruction course, that is called into defensive shooting now. There's a $500 discount, and the advantage, apart from obviously the discount, the advantage that we've seen when people take the 3-day instructor class and then they go to the 5 days instructor class, now the attrition rate dropped from around 50% to probably 20 to 30%, right? So it's a really good step in order to further your education in that department. So the whole idea about introducing it is really that, right? Giving more classes to teach, give more standing to the LGC in the general firearm industry. From my point of view, it demands a much higher level of initial investment, both in resources and time, for the instructor candidate, which in turn translates with attracting people that really want to teach, right? Instead of just doing it for fun and then, whatever. And that again translates to people pushing through to get certified, right? And then start teaching, because now there is an investment, so I need to recoup my investment, so I better start teaching classes, right? Because going back quickly on this, struggle for new instructors, particularly as we're going forward to 2020, 2021, I think that AMO is going to be one of the main stopping blocks, if you will. Then range accessibility, like a few people mentioned, right? Because, ranges, even if you have range in your area, they're not necessarily always open to other people and so on. And again, like you go and give your certification as Liberal Gun Club, they may be a little bit more resistant than if you have a certification that is actually nationally recognized and so on and so forth. And the other thing, the other limit to new instructors is marketing, right? So you need to have find a way to find ammo for your students if they can find them themselves. You need to find a range for yourself, and you also need to get off your ass and market yourself, right? And those are three things that if I don't invest anything, I tried once, that's it, didn't work out, no skin off my nose. But now if I've invested time, money, and I have actually gained more passion for teaching, for making people better able to defend themselves and so on and so forth, now I can be part of that momentum, that swelling that we want to see in the liberal community about gun rights and education and frankly preparedness as well, right? So that's pretty much the 1,000-feet view of the process. If anybody has any question, or if you guys like me to add anything, let me know.
Yeah, thank you for the overview, Alessandro. Appreciate it. Does anybody out in the crowd have any questions for Alessandro about that program that they'd like to see covered?
Hi, my name is Brad. I actually signed in a little bit later than exactly 8 o'clock. And I hope, can everyone hear me right now on Zoom?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Hi, Alessandro. That was a really great point. I'm just kind of curious in general. So you're trying, and again, bear with me. I apologize. I kind of, sometimes those things are like I wasn't able to come in exactly 8 o'clock to the conversation. Mm-hmm. So with the certifications of becoming an instructor, one question I have is, how, and just bear with me asking this question, is there like a general uniformity in training on how, like saying like, I took these type of classes, I'm trained with these type of firearms, therefore I can say, to anyone that like I am a true certified instructor? Or is it more like, there's a kind of variation in different schools of teaching instructors and firearms, if you kind of understand what I'm getting at with my question?
Yeah. So there are different programs that focus on different techniques, tactics, procedures, and so on. Right? And frankly, anybody and everybody can buy a DVD, study it, and then, I'm the instructor of this and that, right? So one of the reasons why we want to piggyback, if you will, with the ICE training, with the USCSA, and the defensive firearm coach, which is a branch of ICE training, is because one of the most important aspect is the what's the word I'm looking for? The standards of the teaching, right? So if you get certified with the into defensive shooting or defensive firearm coach, everybody that gets certified is teaching the same program, right? The standards, and don't get me wrong, the standards to get certified are super high. You have to pass a written test, which is the objective standard, with 90%. And then you have to pass the subjective portion of the testing, which is teachbacks, right? And the teachbacks are where most people fail, right? Particularly if you don't have too much experience speaking in public or instructing or teaching. And now you're juggling in your mind the new knowledge that you have and how to transfer it to your students, right? So the rate of attrition is really 50%, right? So, and it's not just because we want to be mean, it's because the goal of the instructor course is not for you to understand the program. That's half of it. The goal is for you to gain a much deeper understanding of the program, the why behind everything that we do, and also you demonstrating your ability to teach it, to transfer that knowledge. So until you can do that, you're not going to get certified. So the standards are really high. The standards are recognized as being pretty high within the industry. And again, it's not just, you deciding that, we are instructors now. No, we have, we are standing on the shoulder of everybody that came before us. So there's like, now there's going to be like a few, multiple dozen people certified with USCCA, multiple people certified with ICE training and so on. So now we're going to add to that, but coming from the LGC. Does that make sense and answer your question?
Yeah, I also want to add to that real quick.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to add as well to that, and Brad, I don't know your last name. I'm not sure if you're one of our certified instructors already, but
I am not.
okay.
It's a goal of mine one of these days.
Got it. So we always start folks off at a much more basic level. And so the classes, if you go to the website, you can see the intro classes that we typically start folks off with. And it's once you get into the more advanced side of the house that we start talking about what Alessandro is getting into. But if we're talking about doing an introduction to range safety, which is far and away the most requests that we get. Like I said, we've gotten about 500 requests in the last 3 months alone. And I would say probably, and David can keep me honest on this, I'm thinking probably about 75% is for nothing more than the intro to range safety or firearms familiarization course.
Yeah,
and those are classes that, you know, if you're a gun owner and you've been a gun owner for a long time, or even just a couple of years, the intro to range safety class is not a high barrier to entry. And as long as you've got a basic 22 caliber, you know, semi-automatic, you can teach that class. So it's one of those things where if you're looking at getting certified, starting off with the basics is always where we go first.
I really appreciate that information. Sorry that they muted me. So I do appreciate that. That makes sense. Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess like maybe start like range safety training and then work your way up to become like a true, you know, defense instructor and stuff like that.
Exactly. We always have baby steps to greatness, right? Jumping straight in,
exactly.
jumping straight into the most advanced stuff is generally not where you want to go.
No, I appreciate that, and thank you again for your answer.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk also. So we were on the path of what we're adding next, and I know that John had started putting in some work on doing the range safety officer class. John, are you still on the call here?
Yep, I'm here.
Hey, John.
Well, I've transitioned from being a range officer at Richmond to starting to direct training for the RSOs. I'm still a little bit in transition on that one, but I do have a lot of interest in RSOing. I bring a lot of in the field experience to it. It's kind of interesting that people are saying the NRA melted down, because I just renewed my certifications with NRA that I may or may not get any value out of, but I do feel like it's a super important subject, because basically the range officer is the ambassador to the shooting sports for new shooters. And that, in many cases, that is the first firearms authority figure that a new gun owner will independently come into contact with. And so as a result, my philosophy towards range officering is really kind of a customer service based model. Because I feel like an open and welcoming environment is a safe environment. So I like it when range officers look like the people who are on the line. The range that I work at is extremely diverse. I would say that it is probably on the public line on Sunday afternoon, it's white people are probably the minority. So it's important, the racial sensitivity, a lot of things have really come to the forefront in that, and treating people with dignity and respect no matter what their level of firearms expertise, because that often gets construed as a racial thing. And also having conflict resolution skills is super important. So in any case, as time goes on, I do want to develop a program for that. I'll probably take the good parts of the NRA program and integrate them into a new program that is based on this philosophy that I just outlined.
Right, question.
So
I have a question. Last year we had talked to Grant our friend who's not here in the meeting about helping figure that part out. Are we still working with him on that, or did that go down a path?
Well, the project has been basically on hiatus, given that there's all these other things going on. So as my bandwidth frees up a little bit more, then that will be something that I'll be able to focus on a little bit better. Particularly once I start teaching the Richmond class, the RSO class to people at Richmond, I'll basically probably take whatever PowerPoints that I create for that and then mutate that into what I would like to put forward as the LGC range safety program. I'm also working for Richmond on a range safety video that the plan is to take that video and port it out to LGC oriented content as well. So that's really been my main focus at the moment for Richmond, is getting this range safety video built and scripted and created for them.
Thanks, John. So have you had a conversation with Grant in the last 6-8 months about the program, or kind of?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I have not, because it's just, getting a hold of him can be a little challenging, actually.
Especially in the last 4 months.
Yeah, always bug me, because I send him a bunny picture and then he responds, and then I bug him about gun stuff. For those of you who don't know, I own rabbits and Grant owns rabbits, and so sometimes I can get Grant to talk to me by not talking guns first.
Yeah, I can borrow some. My daughter in North Carolina raises rabbits, so I can borrow some of her bunny pictures.
Oh, dude, seriously, if you talk rabbits with Grant, you're in.
Okay.
Nice. Well, I think that gives us.
Can you put a rabbit in a CRSO outfit and send him
Yeah,
a
there
photo?
you go. Put a range officer hat on them.
All right, good.
That would be awesome. If we had a mini one, I would put it on mine and take a picture for you.
So I think that's just going to be an ongoing project. If there's anybody else on the call that is also a certified range safety officer or is certified to teach other range safety officers, please send us an email afterwards, because I think it would help to have, more eyes on this.
Yeah.
If we can get a small committee together for it, that would be very helpful.
I think that Richard may have range safety officer. I know that he's got a basic pistol and I think rifle, and he's a North Carolina certified concealed handgun permit instructor also. He just he's been busy with that and not gone through the LGC process. But I've been shooting with him, and it's going to be a cakewalk for him.
Is that a new person?
Richard Musselwhite, yeah, down there.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been in on the call since the start, and he's
Great.
here 90 miles or 60 miles away from me.
Well, let's, Richard, why don't we go ahead and we'll try to loop you and John and maybe Grant together, and we can kind of start working on this stuff. So after the call, let's put that on the list. Kyle, if you don't mind, make a note of that, of the folks that are going to have that as a takeaway.
Sure. What email do you want them to send that to? Because you had mentioned send an email.
Yeah, education@theliberalgunclub.com. Okay, so the next two things, the Make It Safe stuff, did Scott jump on? Or actually, I saw that Paul Kronk jumped on.
Paul did.
Yes, I'm here finally.
Paul, how's it going, man?
Good. Just got done with a 12-hour session, so.
Oh, so you're going to be very lively then.
Yeah.
Drink some more tea. You'll be fine.
Exactly.
So have you and Scott started recording any of those videos yet, the Make It Safe videos?
No, we haven't. So I'll reach out to him and put a fire under him a little bit in a polite way.
Okay, good. Because those will be helpful. And then also, as I mentioned, we actually already have the material for that is about 90% of the way done. David, that should be in, I believe I put it in the instructor files in our G drive.
Okay.
So take a look for that, and let's start getting that out to, well, let's review it first. Alessandro, I'd like your eyes on that. Ed, your eyes on it. And then, once we've got that nailed down, we'll get that out to all of the currently certified instructors. Because again, that's one of those, it's even more basic than the intro to range safety. So if you're certified, you're certified. So a couple of other things, carbine / rifle class. Is anybody on the call currently certified for anything along those lines? I know someone was working on it already, but I think the ball got dropped.
If you guys want, I can work on that. Because we do teach the into defensive carabine class, which I'm going to teach on Sunday, FYI.
Right.
And so I can work on like a fundamental version of it, because basically the way that it works for ICE, you need to get certified in combat focused shooting before you get certified in carabine, right? But I can definitely work with Rob and see if I can make, kind of like the defensive firearm coach is the combat focused shooting coach light version. If I can develop a introductory class for the carabine, for the defensive carabine, then we can tag it as a one-day instructor certification after you get certified for the 3-day defensive firearms coach.
Well, and I think that's great, but I also want to do a more basic one. So we've got today the basic firearms familiarization class that really is centered on pistol, and I'd like to get more rifle oriented, something that's going to be, more of the fundamentals of, here's how you shoot a rifle. You already know how not to shoot yourself in the face with the last class you took, but some of the more basic side of it, something where a newbie who has no experience shooting rifles is going to be comfortable going through the class. Because again, 90% of our requests are for the really intro kind of level stuff.
Yeah, agreed. I found that one of the biggest problems we face on the line are people who do not know how to use their AR-15 rifles. We have a number of major problems with that, and a basic rifle class that would address that, particularly the AR, but any rifle would be really a huge hole that will be filled in the rifle teaching world, because the NRA class basically goes super geek, and they basically base it on knowing every kind of rifle available, whereas really in reality there's only a couple that people are actually using. And so I think there's a lot of fat that could be cut out of the NRA program and brought up to date.
Well, and I think that there's the fundamentals of how you maintain the AR and the AK platform, and here's how you sight it in, here's how you adjust your red dot, here's how you adjust your sights, here's the basics of trigger discipline, here are the different shooting styles, the basics.
Here's how you load it, how you charge it, that kind of thing. Just for the record, I have a sales certification. I'm sorry. I have a sales certification with the Mass State Police around using M4s, etc. But nothing new. So I do know how to. I do know how to teach how to use them, but some of it's stale.
Okay. Well,
I've added that as an item, Eric. It's number 13 for a basic carbine rifle course.
Okay. So Alessandro, maybe you and I and any other instructors on the call want to be involved in developing that with us? Kyle, you want to?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think between the three of us and maybe Ed as well, when he has time, we can probably get something hammered out there.
The CERT people just released an AR analog. So
who did?
CERT, the CERT guys.
CERT has one.
That is true.
Mantis also has one that's much better.
But I don't have that one. I got the one from CERT.
Yeah, once you try the Mantis one, the CERT one's not going to seem so great. I'm waiting to get mine, and I can report back. That's the Blackbeard.
Got it. Oh yeah. I got to do an open box for the CERT one though. It's actually, for what it is, doesn't suck. But,
yeah, it just has no trigger feeling to it. Yeah. The Blackbeard actually drops a hammer.
And no other manual of arms.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Eric.
That's okay. So we're running up on the clock here, so we want to kind of hammer out a couple more things. We talked a little bit about challenges already. Okay, so Ed, you want to talk a little more about the official remote learning position? Was that your deal?
So it was a weird thing. So I don't know how many of you are in the instructors lounge, but about April-ish, Massachusetts State Police sent out an email to all the certified instructors saying, be mindful that you're not currently authorized to remote teach any of the firearms classes. And my immediate reply was, well, we never were. It was always supposed to be in person. And their reply was, well, we're trying to figure out how to make that happen. So we had a brief moment in May, about 3 weeks or so. Rick can probably speak to the specific timing, but it doesn't really matter. Where we were allowed to teach the basic firearms safety class, which is the class that leads you to get a license to carry in the Commonwealth remotely. And part of what seemed to be happening inside the state police was, well, the NRA has this remote learning thing already covered, so we let them do this. If you want to do yours, you need to ask us for special permission. So it wouldn't hurt for us to have a formal position on remote learning and a version of the class that did not rely on, one, live fire, and two, manage to do something along the lines of, here are the props that you need to be able to teach it. So I think that there's a space, especially now, and probably until next year, for us to have, take our curriculums that we have, and I use the word plural, and make sure that they are friendly to certain situations where remote learning is the only option. And it's also not ideal. Obviously, we want live fire, but I know that Mike Ross has taught range safety virtually, and we actually did it. We actually did a version of it for an hour in the social distance learning thing. And I obviously, if anybody wants it and they're on Facebook, the links are available to the entire 4.5 hours of me babbling for the Massachusetts version of the class. But it's I think there's a space that we can officially say we support a remote learning function for certain of these classes.
I think there's two components to that. I think first that there's the in classroom part that we could actually do that with for firearms familiarization, as well as the intro to range safety. And then, the advantage there is, as we know, we have a lot of geographically spread out requests where somebody who sends in a training request is, 2 hours away from the closest instructor. So they wind up going to a local range to get instruction instead. And they're not necessarily happy with the outcome of that. So being able to say, okay, well, we can do this part remotely, and then we'll schedule a time to go to the range afterwards and review the things that we talked about here. I'll also provide you with a recorded link so you can rewatch the class if you want to.
It's almost like telehealth, right? So I did my COVID-19 test. They sent me a package. I got on a Zoom session. The medical practitioner walked me through whatever it was I needed to do. I completed the sample. I put it in the pouch and I sent it back. If we had some formal revision of some of the curriculum, that would probably be good, because that would then stage it so that those people that are coming in and say, well, I'd like to hear from you first, then we have some functional way for them to hear from us first. And then we could say, okay, now when you go to the local guy in your town that's 3 hours away from me, here are the things to watch out for.
Right. Yeah, I think that there's some value there. So I guess where does that leave us?
Eric, can you hear me? I know my
hey Nigel.
my
you got a bad connection.
audio is usually pretty shit. I don't know whether this is what, but
we'll mute you if it becomes problematic.
It would be really good. It would be really good to have the distance learning portion of the, I suppose, the class element of the, certainly the safety. I mean, I taught one of those at some tables outside a local Starbucks because I couldn't teach it in the local range at the gun shop. And so consequently being able to do that beforehand and then go, you know, if you're limited, like me, you're kind of limited to a local gun shop range indoor, then that would be certainly very helpful.
Yeah, and I think really all that is saying, you know, from my perspective, it's a matter of just saying, okay, we do support this, and then we need to come up with guidance on what portions can be done that way. And so that's going to be on us as leadership. Ed, you, I, Dave, Alessandro, you know, we can loop, is Justin on?
Justin I don't think Justin is on. Rick actually observed that entire class. God help him. So he will have. He'll have some external observational information, I think, to help with that. I really just think it's you got to do that. But I wanted to make sure we talked about that because I think we need to have that because I don't think that this problem is going away.
If I may chime in,
2021 anyway.
If can you hear me? Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, awesome. I was just going to chime in that I was pleasantly surprised how much of it translated to online. There was very little that I think was lost in translation from Ed delivering the material over the computer. The only piece was tactile, and I think if a person knew and determined what was missing, that once you did get to a range, you could fill those gaps. And so that would be, my offering would be to just be cognizant of what might have been missing from people being able to handle a cert or handle a gun during a live class, and then fill that space in once you did get to a range.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a place for that.
Has some.
I have a question on the people that have done the remote over the computers. The people that you're teaching, do they already have guns?
No.
Yeah.
No, and that was actually unique. So unique to Massachusetts, maybe not unique. Peculiar to Massachusetts is the class is required before you're even allowed to go apply for the license that allows you to have the guns. So we actually had spent some time prior to me executing on this, talking about, is there a place for props that the students acquire or sent or something? And it all just sounded like a really bad idea. So no, there were no props that the students got to touch or hold, but it was a lot of me holding stuff up to a camera. And our current curriculum has some really good slides with some really great animations that demonstrate some of the internals. I think we need a little more of that if we're going to go this, if we're going to support this as an ongoing thing. The biggest problem was, I can't show you this because normally I would point the gun at, like this, and now it's pointed at my face, and I don't want to do that.
Right. Right.
One of the things I wanted to bring up about that is, I hate bringing up the NRA, right? But I know some of their basic courses, they went with a remote or online component, and then you were supposed to schedule a meetup with a certified instructor in your area.
No, that was exactly what the Mass State Police said. It's like the NRA has already got this covered. So,
yeah, well, no, I'm just saying we have some people who are NRA instructors as well that might be able to look at what they're doing that would legally pass muster.
Oh,
for whatever states.
It's less well, at least in Massachusetts, it's less a problem legally, and I don't want to belabor this point too long. But what we've been doing for the last 4 months with social distance learning has got to be the foundation of it, right? So we now know how to do distance learning. I think, period. We know how to do it. We're probably pretty good at it, and we don't. Yeah, but we just need to have a set of protocols and a set of modifications that should get implemented and say, now this is the social distance learning version of the class.
And the legal stuff is weird because in the states that aren't mass, that only want to recognize NRA, California, and I don't remember who the other one was that we looked at, they want like thousands of hours of teaching, not just training, but they want like certified thousands of hours of teaching as an NRA instructor before they'll let you teach anything that's not NRA. So part of it is just political. Part of it has nothing to do with what the content looks like. Frankly, a lot of the NRA, because I'm certified in it, a lot of the NRA remote learning is absolute garbage. And
agreed.
So there's lots kind of behind the scenes stuff. So the Massachusetts stuff has been really progressive as far as that goes.
It has, and I think that actually bleeds into Eric's number 10. But before we leave there, just as a to-do, David, Eric, maybe Al, we should compile how many hours of our classes we've taught, just so that we can answer that question. Our class has been taught for 10,000 hours, 1,000 hours, 100 hours, I don't know, whatever the answer is. And that way, if we click over a certain number, that might be a component to certification in some of those more draconian states.
We can talk about that, Ed. It's a little different here in California, where it's 2,000 hours per year.
Yeah.
In order to do something, and that's per trainer.
Per person.
Per person.
Got
yeah.
it.
So it's ridiculously draconian, and that's a matter of, I think now with what's going on, there is an opportunity to approach legislators, and this leads very nicely into my next topic of conversation, which is state certifications for classes. So this is something where I'm actually going to ask everyone on the call that is a certified instructor. We really need your help. If you're a certified instructor in Oregon, if you're a certified instructor in Pennsylvania, if you're a certified instructor in California, we need to figure out exactly what the criteria is in your state that they see as a recognition for firearms instruction. And there's a few different portions, right? So California, in order to teach something and give someone a card so that they can go buy a gun, there is a certain level of thing that you have to teach for that. We're not necessarily talking about concealed carry, although that is a component for some states. Where I think North Carolina, David, you and Justin were chatting about the hoops to jump through to get certified for North Carolina. So what I would ask the folks that are on this call to do is to go to your state websites, see what they have that requires certification for firearms, figure out what criteria they're using, and if they are using a criteria of must be an NRA certified instructor or certified by the state police, then that's an opportunity where we kind of figure out, okay, who do we need to approach to get this changed? Is it a legislative change? Nigel, I think I've got to mute you. I'm getting a lot of background noise.
Got him.
All right.
Thanks.
I just called in on my phone, so I don't know whether that might be the difference.
Okay. Yeah, I think we were getting a feedback loop there.
Okay.
So anyway, like I was saying, please, if you're a certified instructor today, go out to your state websites, see what the process is.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, we're gonna have to mute Rick too.
I got him.
All right. Figure out what the process looks like, and then get back to that education@theliberalgunclub.com with the research that you've done on it, and we can start some kind of a Google Doc or a working doc for the different states, and see where we're at today versus where we need to be to start getting some formal recognition. There's a huge opportunity, as was outlined above by the collapse of the NRA, in that I think there's a lot of legislators out there that are going to say, oh, hey, you guys are an alternative. You're a national organization. You've got instructors in 25 or 30 states. Yeah, let's talk. Let's see what we can do to get you added in there, at least as a also instead of a exclusively NRA thing.
So,
yeah.
I want to add two things to that. I actually did ask the Massachusetts State Police what it would be required to also get the course certified without a live fire component. And I know what needs to be done. I know who to send it to, but they're not taking new course offerings until after the first of the year. So we won't be able to do that until 2021. And two, I can even tell people now what we went through in 2010 to get the course on the list. And it mostly involves it's not just going on the state website. It's figuring out who the licensing authority actually is, where there is one, and picking up the phone and calling that office and saying, I'm trying to figure out what's required to change, to add a firearms safety course to the curriculum that's accepted by your state. And it requires a lot of boot leathering, just so that you know. This is not it wasn't trivial here. It took, I think, 2 months of pretty concerted effort and a lot of phone calls.
We talked about it in Virginia because of the changing standards. We would love, but this is for concealed carry licensure.
For whatever license, whatever levels of licensing exist, like we have at least 2 levels in Massachusetts. Some people have a license to own. Some people have a license to carry. Some people have some variant. Some people have concealed carry. There's a gamut of possibilities here. So your state's going to be, whatever you know about it, that's going to be the key. So for the concealed carry permit, you were saying, go on.
Yeah, we've discussed it. I don't remember where things are. One of our members is working on it. I will ping him and ask, because one of the nice things about getting official recognition is that, in theory, the state police or whoever it is on their website will list the Liberal Gun Club and maybe have a link to us.
Yep.
And that's
LTC 019 in Massachusetts. Thank you very much.
Well, and that goes to my original point is, we want to get recognized ourselves. And in the comments, there was a question about, should I go out and get NRA certified? And the goal here is for us to get to that same level of recognition within your state. So that's what we're working towards with this. We have some great classes. We have, folks that have gone through the classes that absolutely love it. So let's get that done. Let's work towards getting that done. And anybody on here that's an instructor, please start working on that. And this is not going to be a solve it today kind of thing, but let's start working on it now. Because this going forward over the next couple of years, now that we have the instructor, the cadre of instructors across the country, now we can really start working on this nationally. So,
yeah,
I think that's all that I have. Go ahead.
If I may, one thing that I felt to mention for the 3-day instructor class, one of the reasons why that was rolled out as well, it was to provide an alternative for CCW certification to the NRA, right? And since we rolled it out, there has been a lot of people that have been able to integrate that curriculum into the CCW process, right? Even in California, like a friend in Bakersfield, one in Sacramento, one in Exeter, which are not necessarily liberal bastions, but they were able to go to the sheriff, and obviously there is the legal portion of the class, that needs to be taught as the sheriff says and so on. But then the practical side and how you approach it and what you teach can vary a little bit. And so they were able to introduce the defense parent coach practical portions into the CCW certification, right? And so that's, again, it's another way that we can reach that national recognition a little bit quicker, in a sense, right? So there's already been people doing it, and so we can piggyback and use that expertise as well on how to approach the issue in order to get a positive result.
Great. Thanks, Alessandro. So I think that was all that I had for covering. Ed, Alessandro, David, anything else that you guys wanted to jump in and add here?
No, if I may, I really like the idea of the make it safe and the fundamental Caribbean familiarization class. I think that they're really going to fill a gap that we need filling. And if anything else, and obviously it's not farm related, but I would like to see also the trauma medicine, kind of some sort of intro to trauma medicine.
That's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
So just so everybody on the call knows, Stop the Bleed course tomorrow noontime and Sunday noontime. So if you haven't done one, at least do the virtual ones that we have this weekend. But yeah, we should absolutely have trauma medicine as an integral part. No questions.
And I think another thing that may be helpful is for each, and that's obviously going to be state chapter related, like have like a link or a page or whatever that explains the law of self-defense for your state.
There's some of that in the existing decks, but not probably enough customized.
And that's a huge undertaking because a lot of what's out there is Andrew Bronco wrong. So that's more than it sounds like. Grant has been on me for 3 years now. And it really needs to be a book, and I really need time for it to be a book. And guess who doesn't have time because I'm working full time and teaching a kid at home and all that.
No,
Yes.
Oh my God! Really? That's your excuse?
Hi. So, Laura, I've never met you. My name's Jason. If you need help with that, I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't have a family. I do work full time, but I work at home. And I am an attorney, so if you need assistance with any of that self-defense stuff,
we're surrounded by bloody lawyers.
I know, and Mark is here too, and I'm not gonna volunteer him, but I mean, I would be perfectly fine helping with any legal issues that, at least for California, I can't do anything other than that. But
I think we had that spirited conversation a couple of weeks ago, Jason.
Yeah.
And Jason, you may not know this, but I work for Tyson Mendez, which is one of the biggest defense firms in the state, and Mark is a plaintiff's lawyer.
I know. I used to be a plaintiff's. I used to do plaintiff's employment law, but now I work for the state bar. So I get to enforce anything that Mark does wrong.
Not in me.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Right. So I'm going to have to edit that part out, I'm guessing, from the video that we post, if we post it at all.
Yeah. No, that's very helpful.
And I'd be perfectly fine with direct messaging you on Discord, my email, my personal email address, and we can go from there. Whatever assistance I can help with.
Yeah,
you're the confused soul, right?
I'm sorry, what?
You're the confused soul, right? On Discord.
That is correct.
Yes,
I'm the one with the very strange food Post-its on my desk.
Yeah.
That's visual.
Nice.
And kind of to echo what Jason said, if anybody, on the instructor level or anything else in the club, if you guys have things that you're like, hey, I'm really interested in this part of what you guys are doing, or I'll help with my state, or I'll help with, making a DAC, or I'll help with whatever, God, let us know. The education email that we've talked about is the big one for instructors, but there's also the info. You guys can find me, Ed, Eric, and John, and Alessandro, and David pretty easily in all of our forums. Let us know if you have something that you think, hey, I have a skill set, especially because you guys are the instructors. So we want your input.
So I have one more thing to add, because I think we want to go ahead and wrap this up. But I just saw something. I think Karen was saying she'd love to bribe Al to come to NorCal. We have, once it's safe to travel, you're perfectly happy, ecstatic to spend a little bit of the club's money or do specific fundraising to get Al to where he needs to be to teach you guys what you need to know. Right now, obviously, getting on airplanes sucks. But if there's an opportunity to travel and it's something that we can do safely, you don't have to bribe him. We'll figure out a way to get him there.
Yeah,
Only a few hours drive.
Well, so I was gonna say ultimately, if and whenever I get certified with LGC, I still have family down in Southern California. So I mean, if Alessandro needs a ride, if I happen to be in Southern California, I could just kidnap him and then bring him along, just so Danielle and Karen can have Alessandro go up there just so he could say Beretta.
Yeah, put him in a trailer.
So
okay? you gotta
for one thing, you cannot kidnap the willing, and secondarily, for all you NorCal people, we are working on getting dates at the Richmond Run and Gun Club. You know, John is at work there and so on, and we've been following up with them, and I think the first dates available are going to be either September, October. So as soon as we can nail something down, we're going to start to offer classes for NorCal as well. And for the rest of the country, that's more like what Ed was referring to. For the rest of the country, like, once chapters get organized and they get a few people that want to get certified, then we can travel. And if it's not enough people, like the LGC will contribute so that, nobody loses money. But that's going to be a main drive for, I think, 2021 for sure.
The purpose of the club is to expand this capability. So we are expressly authorized to spend your money on it.
I can report that one of the better outdoor ranges is getting tactical bays. So once this COVID-19 thing is behind us, we're going to have to ask you guys to box up Al and ship them to us.
Well, we're going to be pretty much due for an East Coast annual. So, we're just going to make you host that, and then we'll all show up.
I'd love to, but I'm afraid of all the work.
Yeah.
That was quick.
It's a lot of work.
Well played.
It's a lot of work just to make it happen virtually. Jesus. All right. Eric, we done?
Yeah, I think that pretty much so wraps it up. Thanks everybody for jumping on this evening. It was great chatting with you guys and gals, and really looking forward to making this year, the rest of this year, even more productive and getting these things going, because it's going to be great for the club as well as, great for everybody that we're impacting. This is a great public service that we're doing with the basic classes, and it's a great thing to do nothing but grow us. So thank you for your time and your hard work.
So
Thanks,
and yeah, absolutely. We couldn't do this without you. So quick logistics thing. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Pacific time, how to lobby. Goes for about as long as this goes. 10:30 Pacific time, stop the bleed. So if you've not taken one and you're an instructor, take this one at least, so you have some basis before you go out to the range in the afternoon. And then we got some stuff the rest of the day. We got intro to range safety, which I'm not sure if that's for the beginners or if that's for instructors. I thought it was for beginners, but I'm reading the description and I might be wrong. And then at 2:30 Pacific time through till about 4-ish or 5-ish, depending on how long all this stuff goes, we're going to have the rest of the club meetings. Open source defenses tomorrow. Mine, Eric, and Lara and John's State of the Club stuff is tomorrow. And Grant Cunningham, who is inexplicably not on this call tonight, will be giving us a little chat about how the second's for everyone as well. So we're going to continue with the theme of pure education, of bringing new people into the fold, etc. And for anybody who remembers him, Daniel Postelnik is going to actually be part of the OSD presentation team, which my brain wasn't entirely functional, and I didn't realize that until this morning. So if you miss Daniel, you get an opportunity to see and possibly even talk to him tomorrow afternoon.
Cool.
And on that note, I'm going to do the video. Yeah? Oh, go on. Do you want me to do the video?
I got an email. This is Nigel. I got an email for a lot of the sessions. They didn't seem to include I don't have an email for the instructor sessions. Was one sent out, or is there some
Yeah,
secret?
the way that the sessions were scheduled is we've got morning sessions and afternoon sessions. So all you got were the Zoom links for the morning stuff. I'm sorry, for the early stuff and the late stuff, because we're obviously dealing with Pacific time versus East Coast time. So the morning sessions are going to be, the early sessions are going to be how to lobby, stop the bleed, and I think intro to range safety. And then the afternoons or the late sessions are going to be state of the club, OSD, and Grant's keynote. So when you look at the email that you got, it's just divided into early and late, not individually by subject. Because that was the only way to, because we weren't entirely sure how some of it was going to shake out, so we did it this way.
All right. Okay. Cool.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and kill the recording unless anybody else has got something they really want to make sure is put into posterity.